This is the second part of your chi-squared video now then. I'm going to complete this table, but before I complete the table, I want to think back to the degrees of freedom and the significance level that we're going to be checking this against. We're going to use a 5% significance level, and we need that whenever we're looking up our values to compare to our chi-squared calculated value. But this degrees of freedom calculation here, there's two ways that you can think about this. There's a wee formula there, r minus 1, rho minus 1, multiplied by c minus 1, your columns minus 1. And if you think back to the first table that we had, the rows that we had, we had two rows, people who got sick and people who didn't get sick. So I had two rows on there, and I had three columns, people who took herbal remedy A, B, and then the people who took the placebo. So that was my three rows, so 3 minus 1. So 2 minus 1 gives you 1, 3 minus 1 gives you 2, 1 times 2 gives you 2. So our degrees of freedom is 2 on here, using that formula. Another way to explain degrees of freedom is that in our original table, we knew that the total number of people who got sick was 80. We knew the total number of people who didn't get sick was 300. As long as we're given values for the number of people who took remedy A and remedy B, we can calculate that value on there. So if they tell us that there was 20 people on there and 30 people on there, they don't need to tell us what that value is, because we know that that total has to add up to 80. So the 30 and the 20 people, we already know it's 50. So that had to be 30 to bring us back to the 80. So it didn't matter whether they told us this or not. As long as we were given these two, we were fit to work out the missing value. So we had 2 degrees of freedom. Okay. Hopefully that makes sense. If not, just use that wee formula up there. I'll go ahead now then and calculate my next column in this table. So it's O minus E, your observed value, take away your expected value. So my observed value on there was 20, and if I take away my expected value of 25.3, I'm going to get negative 5.3. I'm just throwing this in the calculator because I have to square it now in a wee minute. So I'm going to get minus 5.3 in there. Minus 5.3. My next column then is just that previous column, that negative 5.3 squared, and we're only squaring it to remove the negative numbers, the same way that we did that with Spearman's rank as well. So if I square my 5.3, negative 5.3, I'm going to get 28.09. And then if I use that value then, that's my 28.09, I have to divide it by 8, divided by my expected values. So I'm dividing that now by my expected value, 25.3. And that's going to give me, and let's use 2 decimal places on here. I'll get an answer there of 1.11. Now we'll do the same thing then for the rest of the table. I'm going to subtract my expected value from my observed value. Whatever answer I get there, I'm going to square it, and whatever answer I get there, I'm going to divide it by my expected value. So now we've got all these columns filled in. I've gone ahead and I've totaled up the very last column on there, and I've got 2.52. 2.52 now then is my calculated chi-squared value for my observed and expected values from this wee survey. What I need to do now then is check my 2.52 calculated chi-squared value against the chi-squared critical value from the question. Remember, the question said they check it at a 5% significance level. So we have to look up that value now in our table. You'll get that in page 4 of your notes. So we're looking up a degrees of freedom of 2 at a 5% significance level. And if you look at it on page 4 from the table, you'll get 5.99. That now is your critical chi-squared value. Compare these two numbers then, 5.99, 2.52, that's much smaller. If you look at it in a chart, that green line there represents 2 degrees of freedom. You'll see on page 5 in your notes that there's all these different colours, lines representing each of your degrees of freedom. My critical value then sitting here at 5.99 roughly. Everything on the shaded green area, that would be my H1. That's where I would accept my alternative hypothesis. But my calculated chi-squared value worked out at 2.52, which is much less than 5.99, so it's sitting on here somewhere. I'm on here in the unshaded area, therefore I'm going to accept my H0. I'm accepting the fact, based on this survey, that there is no reason to suggest that taking herbal remedies will ward you off against the cold. That's that one. Try out another example. Try out the task as well. Whenever you get that done, send it on to me.